organizing committee and TIS fraternity. The purpose of the lecture is to strengthen the understanding of students and academia to reflect on the scholarship and the life of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar and its relevance in present scenario. On this occasion, we invite some of the great thinkers to reflect on thoughts and ideas of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. The multifaceted scholarship of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar on wide range of disciplines, whether it's politics, economics, sociology, and many more, is of great significance in present time. It not only cherishes the values of liberty, equality, fraternity, but also directs us to make efforts to internalize it by reflecting on it through writing, reading, and listening. And organizing AML is one of our attempts in this process. I invite our guest speaker, Professor Ramaiah Sir, and today's chairperson, our director, Professor Parshuraman Sir, on dais. We are privileged to have this lecture organized on the occasion of 125th birth anniversary of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and proud to be associated with thoughts of this great personality. This year we are deliberating of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and his vision of nation building. Now I request Vinay to welcome today's guest speaker, Professor Ramaiah Sir, by offering bouquet and shawl of TIS. Now I request Maya to offer the bouquet to Chairperson, our Director, Professor Parshuraman Sir. Now I request Samir for the introduction of AML series.
Thank you, Ma. Today I am here to make you all know the brief history of Dr. Ambedkar Memorial Lecture. AML has been organized annually at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences since 2003, but we can trace its history as early as 1985. I will not go into the details, but rather would like to stress on the efforts and contribution of ST Employees Association of TIS. The association never failed to observe Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's birth anniversary on campus, and all these events were held on the campus with the support of the institute. And in all these occasions, the association had invited someone as chief guest to speak either on Dr. Ambedkar's vision and mission or on the speaker's own experience on caste discrimination in the workplace and how he or she faced it. It was during Professor Mukherjee's tenure as a director, the idea of organizing Ambedkar Memorial Lecture series was mooted, so as to provide a platform for sharing Dr. Ambedkar's ideology and philosophies among faculty members and students. He readily accepted the idea and asked for a written proposal. The draft proposal was submitted and discussed, but before it could be given a final shape, Professor Mukherjee left this, but the idea did not die away. The association organized the first ever Dr. Ambedkar Memorial Lecture when Professor R.R. Singh was the director. Professor Singh extended his full support for the event. The members of the association got together and mobilized funds and organized the first AML on TIS campus on July 25, 2003 in the TIS conference hall. The theme of the lecture was Liberty, Equality, Community, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar's vision of new social order, and it was delivered by Professor Gail Ombel. After the first AML in 2003, the association could not organize AML in the subsequent 2 years, but a process of faculty members encouraging students to get involved in such activities began. In 2004, Professor S. Parshuraman took over the leadership of TIS as director and the AML re-emerged. The second AML in 2006 was the effort of three-pillared organizing committee, namely TIS SCST Employees Welfare Association, TIS SCST SAIL and students of TIS. The students of 2004-06 batch were the front runners in the event as desired. Committee organized two lecture series on the occasion of second Ambedkar Memorial Lecture. First lecture was delivered by Dr. Anant Tumde on January 3, 2006 and theme was globalization and the marginalized. And the second lecture was delivered by Advocate Prakash Ambedkar on January 5, 2007 and the theme was the crisis of second rung Dalit leadership. Then onwards, AML became a regular event on campus. While the students managed the entire event, our beloved faculty members extend whenever and whatever support we needed. Following were the themes and speakers of the AML in order since third AML. For third AML, lecture was delivered by Mr. Vijay Mankar on February 2007 and theme was Ambedkarism in era of globalization. For fourth, lecture was delivered by Professor Gail Ongwet again on January 2008. Theme was Marxism, Ambedkarism and marginalized. For fifth Ambedkar Memorial Lecture, lecture was delivered by Dr. James Massey and theme was Dr. Ambedkar's vision of just society. For sixth, lecture delivered by Professor Sharmila Rege on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's thoughts on women's emancipation. For seven, it was delivered by Professor Kancha Ilya on philosophical roots of Dr. Ambedkar's social, political and economic perspective. For 8, it was delivered by Professor Valerian Rodriguez on a radical conception of democracy, its promise and limits. For 9, it was delivered by Professor Nandura on text and context, Ambedkar on exhumation of society and culture in ancient India. For 10, it was delivered by J. Aloysius on nation without nationalism. For 11, it was delivered by Dr. Narendra Jadhav on Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar as an economist. And today we are having our 12th Ambedkar Memorial Lecture. The students' active participation in organizing AML and the methods they adopt in the process have been a learning experience for all. To highlight a few, while the first years students shoulder the responsibility of executing the entire event, the second year students and MPhil PhD scholars play the guiding and mentoring role. The students themselves mobilize funds for the event, accepting donations from students, alumni, teaching and non-teaching staff and other volunteers. This event has become a common platform to integrate the students across the world interested in Ambedkarian thoughts and to learn the ocean of knowledge that this great scholar and patriot, the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has left behind for the emancipation of humanity. Before ending my speech here, let me give you an interesting correlation. Dr. Ambedkar wrote a book, Annihilation of Caste, in the year of 1936 and it was the same year that TIS was founded. TIS has inherited many values from that book and nurturing students and scholars who work on annihilation of caste. Now, on behalf of organizing committee, I thank leadership and also to the faculty members, staff, students and alumni at large for their continuous encouragement and support to host this event here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samir. Now I would request Director Parshuraman Sir to deliver the welcome address and chair the session.
Good evening, Prof. Ramaiah, the Students' Union President, Mr. Nanda, the Students' Union Literary Secretary, Mr. Vires, respected guests, my dear students, the past and present students, of course, and guests. It gives me an immense pleasure to be here for the 12th Babasaheb Ambedkar Memorial Lecture. I think ever since I have been here as the director, we have been having it regularly. I think very significant speakers have come and spoken. And Professor Ramaiah just told me that the unedited volume of all the 12 lectures will be out soon. today's lecture, we'll start a new series. I would want to say one thing. The Tata Institute of Social Sciences is a world university established in 1936 at the height of Great Depression to work for moving people out of poverty and deprivation whose livelihoods were destroyed by the Great Depression as such. We stand to that logic today. For people, particularly for poor people, you need a very strong state. We believe in a strong state, a strong government, a strong bureaucracy, a strong judicial system, in order that that kind of state would be able to fulfill the people's contract with the state. We work with government on innumerable issues, and as I told you, there is no option to a strong state, irrespective of which political party, which dispensation. That's immaterial. For poor people, you need a strong state, and we work with the state, we work with the society, we work with the government, we work with judiciary, we work with everybody, and we take sides with the people. Poor people and people who work with the poor people do not have many choices. Let us build a nation for creating an equitable and just society, and that's what we stand for, and that's what we must stand for. So have faith in the institute, have faith in the nation.
Now I would like to call Nilesh Gorkhade to introduce the speaker.
Thanks, Umar. It's an honor to introduce today's speaker. Dr. Avatthi Ramaiah is currently a professor at Center for Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. He obtained his MA Social Work in 1984 from the Loyola College, University of Madras, MPhil Population Studies in 1987, and PhD Sociology in 1999 from Jawaharlal Nehru University. His areas of academic interest pertains to the broad area of caste and development. He has published extensively on issues relating to caste, including a book in 2007 on laws for Dalit rights and dignity. He had been a visiting fellow at the Department of Anthropology, Columbia University in 2009 under the Fulbright Senior Scholar Program. He was a visiting fellow at the University of Hull, UK in 2010. Subsequently, he was also a visiting fellow at the Asia Research Centre, the London School of Economics. Professor Ramaiah was also a visiting fellow at the Center for Study of Social Systems, School of Social Sciences, JNU in 2014. He has delivered numerous special lectures both in India as well as in abroad. Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry for disappointing you. I know you all have come to listen to Professor Vivek. I am the emergency batsman. I'm here to, definitely I'm not the replacement, but since someone who's been reading and writing on this for quite some time, I think I can also say a few words on this occasion. That was the voice of Baba Saheb Ambedkar, voice of honesty, voice of commitment, voice of scholarship. Basically indicates how meticulous he was, going through word by word, defending every clause of the constitutions, and probably because of those scholarship and commitment, we are still able to be together as people of one nation. We duly recognize his contributions at this troublesome time. We are here to celebrate this occasion. It is all the more important day because unlike the earlier years, this year the government itself is celebrating in a big way, and many universities have been funded to observe these celebrations. I myself have gone to 2-3 places to giving a lecture on this very issue. So we have all the more reasons to celebrate in a grand manner. The student body managed to put a very nice cultural program yesterday evening, and I also want to, generally other years I play a different role today because of emergency. I am here as a speaker, but I want to once again record the support we received from the institute right from the beginning, and more during Professor Parasuraman's days, and I want to sincerely acknowledge once again your contribution to AML, sir. Thank you very much. Though the theme announced was appropriating Ambedkar in the contemporary era, I have not appropriated anything into that theme, so I am not going to talk on that. So probably I have chosen a slightly different theme, more open, so that I can come in very easily. Celebrating Dr. Ambedkar and his vision for the nation building. That's what tentatively I have put. Celebrating Dr. Ambedkar and his vision for nation building. Now, the moment I say celebrating Ambedkar, two things come to my mind. What do we celebrate? You celebrate the mind or you celebrate the body? These two basic questions comes to my mind, whether we celebrate the body or celebrate the mind. There are people who say Ambedkar was very handsome. Let us celebrate. Because very, very smart looking, so let us celebrate. There are people who say behind Ambedkar there are so many thousands of votes. Let us celebrate. So you erect a statue. So you are celebrating body. So you create number of statues, and you create number of foundations, you create associations. Sometimes you also create Ambedkar chair, sometimes also institute lectures. All those things maybe probably can be put under celebrating body of Ambedkar. But does Ambedkar end there? The major contribution of Ambedkar is his mind. What we heard a few minutes before basically reflects his powerful mind. And when you say celebrating his mind, where was his mind? What was his mind about? What it was engaged in basically? His readings and writings and speeches right from the beginning, if you see, the ultimate goal, Ambedkar's all his work, writing and speeches, in any way you go, the ultimate end is a united India, a cohesive living. That's what his vision all the time. How much you may say he was whatever, but if you read carefully, what was he aiming at? Ultimately, he was aiming at making India as a strong nation, as a united nation, where people can live together in a very cohesive manner. And broadly speaking, that's what it goes. Now, in any academic debate, this mind and body debate comes very elusive. Can mind be independent of body? Can body be independent of mind? And this debate goes on. Even in the Marxian thing, you have a mind over matter, so debate goes on. There are scholars who argue that yes, mind can be independent of body and body can be independent of mind. But if we go by Ambedkar's logic, he says mind and body are inseparable, and a mind cannot function in the absence of a body. And a body without mind is nothing but a dead body. So both mind and body need to be together. Only then you will be able to do it. So any academic institutions, if you have only structure, then it is nothing but a dead body. So the academic institutions have only some statue there, or you even arrange a lecture but you don't believe it. It is nothing but a dead body. It is absolutely nothing but a dead body. So real tribute to Ambedkar that way, you recognize in a holistic manner, both body and mind. So that way that becomes very crucial. But we also know that mind and body can influence each other, can affect each other. As you know that a body below certain level of nutrition cannot function. So there is a need to protect the body so that the mind is intact. Below certain level of nutrition, body will not function, and the body will not function, mind will not function, you can't contribute anything. So if you want Indian citizen, people of India, with a sound mind, the minimum thing that is required is the nutrition level should be of some level, minimum. So you cannot have poverty at that time. And so minimum thing that we can do as a nation is that at least elevate people from poverty. And that also becomes very obvious. Now, when we talk about Ambedkar in this context, definitely poverty was a very, very important issue for him, and there are a number of policies and schemes that he initiated. When it comes to celebrating mind, I said it is ultimately aimed towards what is known as cohesive living. And in the language of the Constitution, it is nothing but fraternity. You call it today nationalism, whatever you call it. But ultimately, Ambedkar says it is a fraternity. I know there are institutions where there were lectures, there were associations, but they were lectures not entertained. Or if the lectures entertained, of a particular kind is not entertained. So all these things go on in many institutions. Every day we get to read from the newspapers. But Tata Institute is definitely different. And as all of you sitting here, that Ambedkar's ideas are there in our curriculum almost in every course that we teach. That credit goes to the leadership of the institute, including Professor Parasuraman. More towards Professor Parasuraman's time, this has become part of our academic curriculum. Now coming to exclusively on the mind of Ambedkar, there was one interesting phrase he used, freedom of mind. All of us have mind, I suppose. All of us have mind. But how many of us are able to put our mind in a critical thinking process? So there are two ways of preventing the critical thinking. One is you keep people in such a poverty level that the person will have no option but to only pray to God to solve his problems. Beyond certain level of poverty, nobody can do anything, but you ultimately go to God. Please save me, I have nothing to eat, please save me. That is the only option, your ultimate point left with. So there becomes the very crucial. But then there are people, Ambedkar says, whether we like it or not, Ambedkar says, how much you pray to God, God will not come. You have to get up and search for food. Use your mind. So his articulation in that line always, he was very critical of Superman theory. He was very critical of that. He was saying that is ultimately your problem, you only have to solve your problem. So even when Amartya in the today's modern concept talking about various kinds of freedom, but that one thing he did not touch upon, he did not emphasize on, probably the word agency can be related to what probably Ambedkar said. But Ambedkar's argument, there are various kinds of freedom, but for all, he put freedom of mind at the forefront. That unless the mind is free, all other freedom is of no use. So he kept the freedom of mind at the foremost, at the top, when he actually categorized what kinds of freedom that we need. One is the freedom from British is a different kind of freedom. But freedom from many kind of barriers that we face could be different. But freedom to think, it is an imposed barriers that many in the community, the normal theory of Varnashrama says there are thinking Varnas and doing Varnas. So people are born to think and people born to do. So there are, this is the only place, it's very interesting. So there are some people born only to think, some people are there only to do activities. So he was probably that was the context. He put freedom of mind at the forefront. You would know whether it is the issue of gender or caste. The freedom of mind plays a very, very important role. So you can prevent people from thinking by brute, that even if you think you cannot articulate, if you articulate, I will finish you. That is also one way of preventing people from thinking. The other way of preventing people from thinking, you don't have to think. You think about Superman, he will solve your problems. And as you know, almost all religions in the world says, leave your problem to God, God will solve your problem. But if Buddhism says, you don't leave to God, there is no God, there is no soul. If you have a problem, only you have to solve your problem. No Superman will come and solve your problem. So you also have a certain very clear-cut lines drawn on what religion says, different religions say about what you should be doing it. So when the freedom of mind, now how will you achieve the freedom of mind? Because once you achieve freedom of mind, everybody will think, there is a logical reason why freedom of mind is not entertained. Because once you think, for example, if you educate your wife, I'll take it in a very light sense, please. I know my feminist colleague don't file me sexual harassment case. In the lighter sense, I want to say, when you want to educate your wife, it's a big risk. Now, why I am saying this? Because once you educate, she will say, no, I have a qualification. You get me a job. Arey Baba, education only ki to pehle problem shuru ho gaya. Get me a job. Now I can't say because he's educated, he's qualified, I want to get you a job. Okay, you go and get a job. Now got a job, I got a salary. Then what do? You open a separate account for me. Now once you open a separate account, my wife is laughing. Once you open a separate account, what you will do? No, this is my money, I will not share with you. But what about family expenditure is all there? What will you do? No, that you say out of your account. This is my money, I will not give you, I will buy for gold or anything I will do. You are not business. Madam is clapping. But if you really want to see what is fraternity, it is painful. I know it is painful many times. Galat kar diya isko, college bheja. You feel that way. But then if you think very rationally, that is what actually is freedom. You fight, you argue, and ultimately, that it is a cohesive living ultimately. That is if we say no to education, that is complete brutal denial of freedom. So however difficult it is, you must still pursue. You must educate, you must, whatever the difficulties you may think you have to face, because ultimately, that is also an independent soul, which has all emotions like men. And that is what Ambedkar was pleading for it, that freedom of mind is necessary for every individual, irrespective of what caste you belong, what gender you belong, what religion you belong. Everybody needs freedom to think. And so everybody needs education, everybody needs property, and so on and so forth. But how will we achieve that freedom in a country like ours? And in the voice we heard, one says, you walk a long way in a cooperative manner. Basically caution, you have to be patient. People will agitate, people may not like to come. Give all possible concession to them so that those who do not want to come will also come one day. He was making that argument in relation to the Muslim League was not willing to be part of this country. They were demanding for separations. It was in order to persuade them, he was making those appeals, basically. So make all possible concessions so that even those who don't want to come will come one day, and that will take a lot of time. Be patient. That was his appeal. So similarly, in a heterogeneous society like ours, which is divided, as you know, caste, religion, caste and subcaste and sub-subcaste, we are divided in those ways. That's why Ambedkar asked, how can a country which is divided into thousands of castes and subcastes can constitute a nation? That was a bold statement when he says, how will we build a nation? How will we build a nation when we are divided in so many ways? So that means there must be an attempt to see that every individual, unlike many other religious leaders, he is making individual as a unit of analysis. You may belong to any caste or religion, but he makes individual as a unit of analysis. That means the very fact you are an individual, irrespective of what caste and religion, region, linguistic background you come from, every individual must have that access to whatever, the basic rights, human rights. So he is making individual as an entity, so that means nobody can be debarred from accessing certain basic thing which is necessary for every individual. So once you make an individual as an entity, then you build a relationship between individual to individuals, from community to communities. That can happen only when you learn to respect each other. And then all these things, he says, that the famous ideals, liberty, equality, fraternity, which is generally said to be the something, the ideals which Ambedkar took from French Revolution, but Ambedkar categorically is written time and again. I did not pick up these words from French Revolution, but from the teaching of my Lord Buddha. So liberty, equality, contribution was actually picked up by him from Buddha's. Why we need a universal conception of ideals? Because you know it. See, for example, Barry Brain, a social defined social justice in a particular manner. I just want to quote this for your own reference. He says the worst cases of social injustice within countries occur outside the relatively affluent Western liberal democracies. The worst cases of social injustice within countries occur outside the relatively affluent Western liberal democracies. If the victims are forced to appeal to local norms, they will be in an absurd position to having to invoke norms that are characteristically antithetical to the rights of women, children, ethnic and religious minorities and the poor. The whole point of a universalistic conception of justice is that it provides a basis on which both the inside and those outside a country can criticize practices and institutions that reflect local norms, which typically endorse discrimination, exploitation, oppression. What it means, we within a country we have a number of institutions. For example, sati. When the husband dies, wife is also supposed to be killed. But there are people who justify, this is justice, ye hamara justice hai. That is a local norms, justice. Women during her course should not enter kitchen. That is local justice. In our place there are practices, a menstruating woman should not enter the paddy field. What will happen? Yield will go down. These kind of great norms and scientists we have today also. Women entering into the paddy field, yield will come down. So probably we can use them as a pesticide wherever the problem you work, the problem ends. You don't have to spend money on those. Sometimes. Those kind of local norms are there and we justify that, yeah, this is the right thing. Yeah, our culture hai, humko chhodne ka nahi. So we hold on to that. These are dangerous propositions. That is why Berry says that if you apply to local norms, then you cannot deal with many of the local problems which are basically discriminatory in nature. So there is a need to appeal to a universal conception of what social justice is. So if you go into universal conception of what social justice is, that exactly you see in our preamble of the Constitution, that is liberty, equality, fraternity. That beautiful interpretation, I tried the French Revolution understanding of what's liberty, equality, fraternity, I couldn't get. But in one paragraph I read Ambedkar's writing, it is so excellent, the clarity that he has given, how these three concepts are interrelated. He calls the other trinity. In the absence of one, the other cannot exist. That he says. I'll just read his own understanding of this thing. My social philosophy may be said to be enshrined in three words: liberty, equality, fraternity. Let no one, however, say that I have borrowed my philosophy from the French Revolutions. I have not. My philosophy has roots in religion and not in political science. I have derived them from the teachings of my master, the Lord Buddha. In his philosophy, liberty and equality had a place. But he added that unlimited liberty destroyed equality. I think these are very, very important concepts for me, because I was trying to understand how these two concepts are related. He says, I have derived them from the teachings of Master Buddha. Liberty and equality had a place in his teaching, but Buddha added that unlimited liberty destroyed equality. That obviously he says the individual liberalism can lead to capitalism and it gets other negatives. So Buddha says unlimited liberty can actually destroy equality. It's a very, very beautiful understanding. And then absolute equality left no room for liberty. Unlimited liberty can destroy equality, and absolute equality left no room for liberty. You have a 2-spoon rice, I will also have 2-spoon rice. That's absolute equality. But I may eat maybe one full quintal of rice. I don't go by the size, my size. So I may look short, but I may end up definitely, I can compete with many of you as far as eating rice is concerned. So the absolute equality can really destroy liberty. So how these three concepts are interrelated, that's what he was explaining. That in his philosophy, law had a place only as a safeguard against the breaches of liberty and equality. So law is basically for a safeguard whenever there is a breach of liberty and equality. But he did not believe that law can be guaranteed for breaches of liberty and equality. He gave the highest place to fraternity. Buddha clearly pointed out there is a limitation with the law. With the law alone you cannot manage liberty and equality, and he introduced the concept fraternity. He gave the highest place to fraternity as the only real safeguard against the denial of liberty and equality, or fraternity, which was another name for brotherhood or humanity, which was again another name for religion. So he says religion basically means nothing but liberty, equality and fraternity. So any religion that does not agree with these things, he negates. This cannot be religion. Religion should bring people together. Religion should infuse sense of fraternity. Religion should actually help every individual to enjoy, experience liberty and equality. And see, when on a day-to-day basis we experience number of incidences. When you find somebody violated certain things, as per the law there is a punishment, so you go by the punishment. But when there is a sense of fraternity, what extent a particular law can be enforced. So that is a bigger God, safeguard, than the law. The biggest safeguard to protect the rights of an individual is more than the law. He says the fraternity, the notion of oneness, the notion of we feeling. That should be predominant, and that was Buddha's teaching, and that's exactly we have got in the preamble of the Constitution. With that notion of fraternity, any law, even the death punishment, can be negated because that violates this notion of fraternity. He also argued fraternity can be a fact only when there is a nation. Without fraternity, equality and liberty will be no deeper than courts. What's happening? Not today. Since the beginning, I can say, ever since independence, we keep arguing that हमारा देश है, भारत महान, हमारा देश है, हमारा देश rape होगा, murder होगा, anything can happen, but फिर भी हमारा देश. So don't talk about rape case. I've listened some lectures. Don't talk about rape. Don't talk about murder. So हमारा देश, you are putting in the wrong light. But facts are facts. Rather than taking the other way, you better deal with that issue. 70 years gone, and still these certain things are happening. This is not anything to do with the present government. Right from the beginning, this is happening. So Ambedkar says, in the absence of liberty and equality, there cannot be fraternity. It's a simple point blank is making that statement. If there is an absence of liberty, equality, meaning if the people do not enjoy equality, if people do not enjoy liberty, don't expect fraternity from them. You indulge in brutal murder and you will say, fratern, we are bye-bye, hum bye-bye. Hum marega, pitega, fir bhi hum bye-bye. So, wo nahi hoga. That's what he was saying. So, in order to really infuse the sense of fraternity, oneness, feeling among people of India, the minimum thing that is required, help people to enjoy liberty and equality. That is the only way in true sense. So, this is how preamble, the three universal ideals figured, and this was his explanation to it. There are some of us who argue that, yes, Ambedkar was one small person in making of the constitutions. Definitely, yeah, there are many things he wanted to incorporate the constitution because of many political reasons he couldn't succeed. But the role he played in the constitution is very, very commendable. One of the members of the drafting committee, that is Sri T.T. Krishnamacharya, about the role of the Ambedkar in constitution making, he makes this particular statement. Though a committee of 7 members was formed to draft the constitution, one of them resigned, another was nominated in his place, another member died, no one took his place, one of the members was very busy with government work. Owing to ill health, 2 other members were far away from Delhi. As a result, Dr. Ambedkar alone had to carry the entire burden of preparing the draft of the constitution. The work he has done is admirable. So, I am reading this because there were forces even labeling Ambedkar as an anti-national, as tools to the British. That is why this is the occasion for us to know what contribution he made to build this nation. At the time of submitting the final version of the constitutions, Ambedkar cautioned, however good a constitution may be, it is sure to turn out to be bad because those who work, those who are called to work, it happen to be bad lot. Meaning, however great the constitution may be, those who are implementing, if they are bad lot, constitution will not bring any desired result. So the people are more important than what's really what right. Then, however bad constitution may be, it may turn out to be good if those who are called to work it happen to be a good lot. So you can't entirely blame even if there is something when we don't want to implement. There are many laws to protect the rights and dignity of individuals and groups, but those laws are abused and misused because those who call to work are a bad lot. So this can happen. And with the kind of provisions we have, we are able to still sail together as people of India. His writings and speeches vividly amplifies his commitment to the nations. Ambedkar was a nationalist, but a nationalist of a different kind. For some, the nationalists are only those who want to protect their country from the forces outside the country that threaten or challenge the country's political sovereignty. For such nationalists are not worried much about forces within the country that challenge the unity and integrity of the nations. They are also nationalists. There are forces within the country that threatens on a day-to-day basis. They are not bothered. For everything, the problem lies elsewhere, all the bordering neighboring countries. Two distinct reasons can be thought of for such an attitude of the nationalist. One, they may be very much a part of the ruling class which controls the legislatures, bureaucracy, media, and sometimes even the judiciary. And since they wield such powers, they do not hesitate indulging in activities that are antithetical to what they have promised to uphold as elected representatives of the people of this country, and so easily escape due legal actions against them. Number two, since they wield all sorts of power as ruling class, they are confident that there can be no force against them within the country, irrespective of whether or not the kind of activities they engage themselves would affect the liberty and equality and fraternity of their fellow countrymen. When you are in power, you don't bother, and so there are enough opportunity for you to use or abuse whichever way you want the law and order machinery. I repeat, this is not anywhere related to any particular government. I am just saying what's happening since independence. The international, the internal enemies are not confronted, when they indulge in violence and indignities of the Dalits are often violated, and the issues of communal violence in which the majority or the dominant religion violate the rights of the minority religion they easily escape. And even if such incidents are brought to light through media, they often do not get the due importance. For some others, the true nationalists are only those who want to protect their country not only from enemies outside the country, but also from the enemies within the country. Ambedkar certainly belongs to this particular category of nationalists. The enemies within the country often constitute the ruling class. They indulge in activities that pose a huge threat to the liberty and equality and fraternity to a vast section of excluded and exploited caste groups and communities of India. Such a threat, if left uncontrolled for a longer period of time, can become a major threat to the very unity and integrity of the nations. For Ambedkar, the enemies within the country are more dangerous than the enemies outside. It is for these reasons he struggled to fight against both kinds of elements. His understanding of nationality, again a very beautiful explanation. He says, nationality is a social feeling. It is a feeling of corporate sentiment of oneness, which makes those who are charged with it feel that they are kith and kin. So nationality is a social feeling that actually gives a feeling that we are kith and kin. And this national feeling is a double-edged feeling. It has a double edge. It is at once a feeling of fellowship for one's own kith and kin. One level you feel your own kith and kin, and an anti-fellowship feeling for those who are not one's own kith and kin. Beautiful. Meaning at one level you feel your neighbors are kith and kin, but you also anti-national feeling mean towards those who are not kith and kin. And when you say kith and kin, they are not blood related, but he is referring to the countrymen. The people of this country, you must have relations of kith and kin. And at the same time, you also have an anti-national feeling towards those who do not consider themselves as kith and kin. So in both, yes. It is a feeling of consciousness of kind, which on the one hand binds together those who have it so strongly that it overrides all differences arising out of economic conflicts or social gradations, and in the other sever them from those who are not of their kind. It is a longing not to belong to any other group. This is the essence of what is called nationality and national feeling. It's a beautiful definition of who is national, who is a nationalist, who is an anti-nationalist. There is a definition which I could get from his writings. India is a peculiar country, I quote. India is a peculiar country and her nationalists and patriots are peculiar people. These are Ambedkar's statement. A patriot and a nationalist in India is one who sees with open eyes his fellow men treated as being less than men. A patriot and a nationalist in India is one who sees with open eyes his fellow men treated as less than men. But his humanity does not rise in protest. When people are treated so badly, your humanity does not arise there. You don't bother. He knows that men and women for no cause are denied their human rights. But it does not prick his civic sense to helpful action. And when things are going haywire, people are facing criminalities and brutalities, your conscience doesn't arise, you don't feel pinched about it. He finds a whole class of people shut out from public employment, but it does not rouse his sense of justice and fair play. Hundreds of evil practices that injure man and women and society are perceived by him, but they do not sicken him with disgust. The patriot's one cry is power and more power for him and for his class. I am glad I do not belong to that class of patriots. I belong to that class which takes its stand on democracy and which seeks to destroy monopoly in a very shape and form. You can also link to Marxism when he makes this kind of a statement. Our aim is to realize in practice our ideal of one man, one value in all walks of life, political, economic and social. It is because representative government is one means to that end that the depressed classes attach to it as great a value, and it is because of its value to us that I have urged upon you the necessity of making your declarations subject to fulfillment. So because of this, he was for parliamentary democracy. He had a very high hope in that kind of a structure. So much so he went to the extent of saying on 15th March 1943, in a preface to his essay on Ranade, Gandhi and Jinnah, he writes, I am no worshipper of idols. I believe in breaking them. See what he writes. I insist that if I hate Mr. Gandhi and Jinnah, it is because I love India more. That is the true faith of a nationalist. I have hopes that my countrymen will someday learn that country is greater than men. The country is greater than men. That was his decision. On May 17, 1929, Ambedkar wrote, while opposing the separation of Karnataka from Maharashtra, that the most vital need of the day is to create among the mass of the people the sense of common nationality. The feeling not that they are Indians first and Hindus and Muslims and Sindhis and Kannadigas afterwards, but they are Indian first and Indian last. Again he says you are Indian first and Indian last, nothing else. No religious identity, no caste identity should be directing you. If that be the ideal, that it follows that nothing should be done which will harden local patriotism and group consciousness. So he was deadly against local patriotism and group consciousness. He wanted to convert every individual as citizen of India. We are a staunch nationalist. What Professor Parasuraman was echoing. Yeah, almost the same thing, Dr. Ambedkar. We are a staunch nationalist as any of the Congress, because Congress, he was in the lockerheads of the Congress at that time. We are a staunch nationalist as any of the Congress, but we do not want the British to quit India till our rights are safeguarded. He did not believe that this could be solved once the freedom achieved, and his prediction was correct, and that is why the problem continues even today. If they do, our fate will be mere terrible, that the fate of any of the oppressed people of Europe in that same way. Service to the nations. I quote, ours is a movement which aims not only removing our own disabilities, but also at bringing about a social revolution. A revolution that will remove all man-made barriers of caste by providing equal opportunities to all to rise to the highest position and making no distinction between man and man so far as civic rights are concerned. If we achieve success in our movement to unite all the Hindus in a single caste, we shall have rendered the greatest service to the Indian nation in general and to the Hindu community in particular. Our movement stands for strength and solidarity, for equality, liberty and fraternity. We wish to carry on out movements as peaceful as we can. However, our determination to remain non-violent will to a large extent depend upon the attitude of our opponents. So he says we want to care with all non-violence, but it depends upon the attitude of the opponents. If opponents force us to resort to non-violence, we are not even against it. We have no option but to resort to similar means. And then finally he makes an appeal. In his talk on 4th March 1933 in Bombay, you must abolish your slavery by yourself. Do not depend for its abolition upon God. Your slavery cannot be abolished by God or Superman. Your salvation lies in political powers, not in making pilgrimage and observance of fast. Your salvation lies in political power, achieving political power, not in making pilgrimage and observance of fast. Devotion to scriptures would not free you from your bondage, want and poverty. Your forefathers have been doing it for generations, but there has been no respite, nor even a slight difference in your miserable life in any way. Like your forefathers, you were rags. Like them, you subsist on thrown out crumbs. Like them, you perish in utter slums and hovels. And like them, you fall easy victims to disease with the death rate that rages among poultry. Your religious fast, austerities and penance have not saved you from starvation. Basically saying don't depend on these things. So that way you can say he was echoing Marx's line of argument. On 16th December 1946, while responding to the amendment moved in the Constitutional Assembly that moved by Ambedkar argued, I have not a slightest doubt in my mind as to the future evolution and ultimate shape of the social, political, economic structures of this great country. He was optimistic. I know today we are divided politically, socially, economically. We are a group of warring camps, and I may go even to the extent of confessing that I am probably one of the leaders of such a camp. But sir, with all this, I am quite convinced that given time and circumstances, nothing in the world will prevent this country from becoming one. He was so much confident this country will emerge as a powerful nation. Now nobody can stop that process. with all our caste and creeds, I have not slightest hesitation that we shall in some form be a united people. Again, he was saying, he was confident. I have no hesitation in saying that notwithstanding the agitation of the Muslim League for the partition of India, someday enough light would dawn upon the Muslims themselves, and they too will begin to think that a united India is better even for the Muslims. I stop here and thank you so much.
Can you hear me? Yes, sir. Who wants to go first? Yeah, go.
Sir, you talked about the Trinity regarding equality, liberty and fraternity. But in our country, we feel there is a great amount of indifferentialism. Like one is weak and one don't go for it. So can you elaborate us upon what are Ambedkar's idea so that this indifferentialism could be broken?
Okay, we'll take a few questions and Prof. Ramaiah will answer them together. Who next?
P.R. Ambedkar proclaimed. A question arises: is fraternity of mankind in opposition to nationalism? Is nationalism and the nation ultimately an enemy of the ultimate value that Ambedkar proclaimed? Thank you.
Yes. Baba Sahib Ambedkar put forth his idea of socialism. Now, in our contemporary time, we see socialism engaged by many private players. They put more focus on people evolving themselves in a market-based economy in the garb of socialism. But it comes really on the part of government taking up responsibility of the issues or causes in the government, in the society which is going on, like inequality, the subsidy, the pro-people orientation, like in education subsidy. So how we see socialism on the part of state responsibility and on the part of private players through the Baba Sahib teachings.
I'll keep it short. Thanks, as Sir Rao said, it has been a very detailed and illuminating talk, but also time is short, so maybe we may not have it. Hello. Sorry. So, as others have echoed, really enjoyed your talk. I have been Professor Ramaiah's student, so I'm going to take liberty of criticizing him. I thought that in some way we fell to the pressures of talking about nationalism in this talk, and that kind of limited the broader views of Ambedkar, which are global, which do not limit us to the pressures of behaving national at the cost of not being human at times. So if we take Ambedkar in totality, which is post-constitution, because 40s to 50s was the time of this pressure of partition, everyone had to talk in certain language. Post-50s, Ambedkar talks about something else, and it's about Buddhism. It's about how does one get the idea of trust to everyone. It's not about region, person, but a broader idea, a global idea. So maybe if you elaborate a global Ambedkar, that would be a message to nationalists and the world that will help us better, I thought. Thank you.
I understand the speaker never talked about this particular aspect of co-option, because he had said initially that that's not what he's talking about. But I think so we should address this main question as to why it's like co-option of Ambedkar. I mean, you could talk about there'll be like a lot of people who are like hating Gandhi, they're hating Nehru. But when it comes to Ambedkar, it's always co-option. That particular aspect has not been talked, because like from the talk that was given, the only thing that we could gather is like certain things which are similar, like, you know, certain things which were basically about individual rights. It was more about the individual, and was almost treating the whole aspect in which Ambedkar was basically talking about, in the sense that everybody is kind of equal and people are just like having fights among each other. But that's not the reason that Ambedkar is today worshipped, you know. I mean, if that is all he was talking about, or like there were comparisons with him and Marx, that there are some people who are the oppressors and then there are some people who are getting oppressed. The main thing that Ambedkar talked about, and that is the reason that he's getting co-opted, is because of this caste power structure, which is like minority of higher caste, which was the case before and is still the case today, who basically are trying to control everything inside India, and they are basically controlling the lower caste, and that's the reason that the higher caste now are trying to appropriate Ambedkar. And that thing is, I was just kind of surprised that in a talk which is supposed to be about his co-opting, an aspect like that was not even like hinted at specifically. So it's more of a comment rather than a question.
How it is linked to liberty, equality, am I right?
It's regarding indifferentialism. Indifferences in the society.
Yeah, I don't know. I respond. I don't know whether I understood you correctly. See, on the one hand, we also talk about unity in diversity. That has been the much cherished slogan since independence, even prior to independence. We celebrate diversity, right? You eat beef. There are people who cherish beef. They eat beef. There are people who hate vegetables. They can't stand by the sight of vegetables. But still there are people eating vegetables, let them eat. But if you start comparing beef and vegetables versus, then you will not, that is not liberty. So you may be, equality is a very narrow understanding. You say, I eat beef, you also eat beef. No, that is not the case. We are talking about freedom of mind. Again, that's what Baba said. You eat what you like. If you ask me to eat certain meat, it will not fit into my stomach. I develop constipation. No, I eat this particular meat, you also eat meat, that hurts my liberty. So I think that's a very narrow way of understanding. You let people eat what they like, why are you worried about? Then comes to this fraternity issue, nationalism. I don't know to what extent I have understood, Professor, your question, but see, there is you also know there is a concept called Vasudeva Kutumbakam. In a much broader view. What does it say? The whole world is one family. We talk about this concept. It's a very larger concept which includes almost every citizen in the globe. You can be, that is the imagination, you can be part of the family. Though we have been articulating this in everywhere, wherever went globally, but when there is a British exploitation, we don't accept the no, Vasudeva Kutumbakam nahi chahiye, you better get out of this place. So at that time we don't invoke Vasudeva Kutumbakam. That time we say we are Indians, you are outsiders, you get out. So that our patriotism at that point of time, our fraternity at that point of time, we don't invoke Vasudeva Kutumbakam. So fraternity and nationalism, in my opinion, in a true sense, definitely they are one and the same. I would even attribute the same meaning to it because actually basically it's a cohesive living it is actually demanding. I don't know whether I have understood the question properly. There is some level of limitation in understanding your question, so I am sure my answers also may not be satisfied. I have not understood your question properly. Probably I will get back to you. Then there was a question related to socialism. We are private players. See, socialism in a way it is something like what do you say that complete equality. That everything is fixed, everything is within the control of the state. Whatever you have done this much, you take that much. So A and B get the same thing, irrespective of probably what they need. So that is why Ambedkar opted for a mixed economy. So it is not India is not a completely socialist country. You go to Russia and that is gone. So it is a mixed economy basically to entertain both these things. But unfortunately, that socialism aspect completely thrown out. We have gone into the private players. So we do not know. Even the biggest staunch nationalists now are opening up everything. The ones nationalists, they are all going to the British and whichever country you want, please come, come, come. So it goes on. Congress started and the present government continues. So at this point in time, we are, as academicians, we can only debate about it. But it is the decision of the state. And in fact, as Prof. Raman said, Ambedkar wanted a very strong state so that the interest of diverse communities is taken care of. But then the strong state can also indulge in oppressing certain communities. If the strong state, if they are honest in adhering to constitutional norms, it can be very, very useful for to manage to value the diversity of the country. But the strong nation, if it takes a different kind of a line of thinking, then you have. So these days. Then global Ambedkar, Surikant's questions. It's a very question. First of all, to talk about global Ambedkar, I should have got some time. I was given only a very little time last minute. So definitely, because the situation, I focused mostly on the local issues. See, what actually he was debating for? He was always talking about social democracy. Social democracy is a universal concept. Everyone wants social democracy. And what is social democracy means? A way of life that recognizes liberty, equality and fraternity. Again, it goes back to the same. These are universal ideas and they are everywhere, and that is why Ambedkar is a figure now in almost most South Asian countries. And you go to even America, there are statues, there are special chairs. So Ambedkar is definitely becoming a more global than these days. To go into specificities, main reason is lack of time. And the last question, co-option of Ambedkar. Historically, there have been always forces trying to co-opt. As an individual, wherever it was possible, he just came out. He came out. He came out of the Congress when Hindu Court Bill was denied. He just, I don't least bother. He came out. There are a number of occasions he resigned and came out. He never bothered about his co-option issues. But sometimes he also used as a strategy to do what he wanted to do it. For example, we all know that as a drafting committee chairman, there were a number of pressures on him. So there were issues that which he could not actually incorporate. For example, separate electorate was one important agenda he had. Separate settlement was again an important agenda he had. Even at the last stage, scheduled caste federation, when he had a major, this was one of the recommendations, one of the demand he made, separate settlements. And in one of the classes he wrote that there should be a special provision in the constitution to earmark annual budget, so that every year this much money is spent in shifting people from their present village location, which is oppressive. So he wanted a very interesting separate settlement. It was not a separate nation. He was not demanding separate nation, but he was demanding separate settlements. Basically means wherever they are numerical minority, pick them up, put them in a village so that they constitute a critical mass and with nobody can attack them. So that was his, but that he could not do anything in the constitution. Perhaps he was very hopeful, because till that time he was not the chairman of the constitution. But once he became a chairman of the constitution, he was very hopeful that with the whatever provisions he made, the discrimination, brutalities that the individual families within village face can be brought under control. But unfortunately, that has not been happening because we still continue with the caste mind. So the caste is, that is why the caste is a disease. It's worse than cancer. And somehow we don't want to throw that also. So like cancer will kill only that person, caste will kill everybody. I'm telling you. Cancer will kill only the person affected, caste will kill everybody. If we realize better that, then deal with it. I think these are the questions I had. Thank you so much.
One more round of questions. All right. If there are no... Speak.
Javed, Professor Ramaiah, Javed to one and all. The topic for this year's AML lecture is appropriation of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar in contemporary era, right? So my question is very simple. There are Brahmins, there are progressive Brahmins, secular Brahmins, socialist Brahmins, and various brands of Brahmins are there. So, my question is these Brahmins are aspire to end caste discrimination. These Brahmins are aspire to create or establish an ideal society. These progressive Brahmins, they are sympathizers of scheduled caste community. They are doing their lip service, but in that way the topic is appropriation of Dr. Ramaiah Ambedkar. I don't know it is possible to appropriate Baba Sahib Ambedkar or not, but they are appropriating the movement. They are becoming the leaders of scheduled caste community. They are appropriating the movement of Ambedkarism. My question to you is, don't you think that rather than becoming the leaders of scheduled caste community, they should take up or undertake other measures like to educate, to agitate their own community, their own respective caste, Dvija caste, Brahman caste, so that a true human revolution we can bring and and Baba Sahib said that Voltaire. So Voltaire we can see among Brahmins, so that because hurdles comes from there, hurdles comes from these Dvija caste, Trivarnikas and Brahmins. So only Brahmins can teach another Brahmin. So this is the responsibility should take up by the progressive Brahmins towards their fellow. Thank you very much.
Very interesting question actually. In the state where I and Professor Ramaiah come from, we have no Brahmins. Okay, they have all been sent away, and I think they can't teach anybody there. So I think don't worry about that.
I was a bit unsure whether I should ask a question or not. Like, so Professor Ramaiah was my teacher, but I will not challenge you ever. Because deep down inside I know it's a good human being. But I thought that, I just thought I would take this opportunity. I was sitting wondering whether I should ask. I was thinking, in 125th year, the birth anniversary of Ambedkar. If one doesn't speak in his land, it is a meaningless gathering that we have. So with that kind of thing, I just wanted to actually add, not to question anything. And I want to add the tribal component in the debate regarding Ambedkar. And it is apt because of the kind of the topic that was actually made for this gathering today, the appropriation. There was a tremendous debate that took place when Arundhati Roy wrote that book on annihilation of caste. And I think this topic was actually made not to have a debate about issues of this kind. Many people, my Marxist friends, left leading of all varieties, haven't actually played in order to show difficulties between Ambedkar and the tribal community. To the extent that one posed even an idea that Ambedkar was against tribes. But I just want to add this one point. Yes, there is tremendous tension regarding tribes and Ambedkar's position, especially about the rise of the individual. When Ambedkar posed individual as fundamental to the constitution of this country, the tribes were all sent haywire. When Ambedkar said break the village, the tribes were saying resurrect the village. So there were so many contradictions that happened. But anybody who has read Ambedkar from the tribal community will tell you this, that at that juncture, when the tribal community was in the pits, and by pits I mean we could have gone anywhere, we would have lost the 6th schedule, we would have lost the 5th schedule and all protections. It was Ambedkar who came to save us. And I think this, having read the constitutional debates that took place, when he intervened, there was a massive force, and tribes basically were non-humans in this country. But there was a massive force, and he alone came to help Jaipal Singh and Nicholas Roy by saving the argument that was put forth, that protection is the only way for the tribal community. So the thing I want to add finally is just this. Many of the tribes who read Ambedkar are under tremendous tension, and this is manipulated by Marxist left. And I'm sorry to say this in this platform, but I think it is apt to say. I just want to say, most of us who see Ambedkar, whatever argument was put forth that seems to have been posited against the tribes, fundamentally we know this, that Ambedkar was a great person and a very good human being. Thank you.
Hello? Hello? Yes. Made a very famous statement that मुझे मेरे पढ़े लिखे लोगों ने धोखा दिया. These statements is everyone was present in this room. मुझे मेरे पढ़े लिखे लोगों ने धोखा दिया. Actually, everyone must concentrate why Baba Sahib made this statement. Vemula is died, his funeral was made according to the Buddhist ceremony. Kashiram was died, his funeral was made according to the Buddhist ceremony. We are asking the question why we are upholding the Ambedkar who are belong to the Hindu Mahar community. Why we are not upholding the Ambedkar who are belong to the Buddhist. If there is a solution for abolishing the casteism is given by the Ambedkar is one and only, that's the Buddhism. We are nobody talking about the Buddhism, and we are round and round and round only of the casteism, the problem of casteism. I would like to know, is there any solution to stop the casteism or all kind of discrimination? Is the Ambedkar give this solution or not? If he is give the solution, then we must follow it. If he not give the solution, we don't need to praise him. Thank you very much.
Hello. I'm not from social science, but I just want to ask a question. I'm an engineer and an MBA. Yes. Even the ideas and minds and thoughts get diluted or weakened or forgotten over a period of time. And I believe when we talk about Ambedkarism or ideas of Ambedkars, they are like kind of forgotten or diluted. When I read different literature regarding Ambedkarism in newspapers, in magazines, and when I read the literature which has been written 50 years back, they are completely different. So, which literature we should trust? Or how we can actually keep the ideas alive in the form they were 50 years back? And I must say that this is doing a commendable job by organizing such lectures. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the lovely questions. First question about complaining about Brahmins road, right? And variety of Brahmins. We have variety of Brahmins, we have variety of Dalits. We have so much varieties in India. So, see, Dalits have every reason to oppose caste, but Brahmins have no reason to oppose caste. Because being in the caste structure, it gives you a lot of things. Why should they oppose? First of all, how do you expect that they should oppose? You are opposing because you are facing trouble. Why should Brahmins oppose? That very expectation itself is wrong. But even then, there are people who really believe in certain values and equality, ignoring their so-called high position, join the movement. So you can't expect an overnight miracle. All Brahmins will throw away and come and join you. They will not do it. It is too much to expect from our side. Why will you give up your status so easily? But then even then there are people who are with the movement. I think they need to be recognized and valued, and more such people should be encouraged, and they will come forward. I am still hopeful. So rather than and again the see, caste is not Brahmin versus Dalit. Caste is a regressive ideology from which everybody is suffering. Dalit is also suffering, Brahmin is also suffering. Brahmin thinks that he is equal unto God. And Dalit thinks he is nowhere near God. But both are illusion only. Uska bhi bhuk lagega, isko bhi bhuk lagega. वो भी मरेगा, ये भी मरेगा. This is the truth. But we suffer from that illusion. So it will take some time. So don't expect overnight revolution to happen. So, but if you ask my personal experience, there are so many good Brahmins. They have been so good. We don't experience it. And then Tamil Nadu, anti-Brahmin movement, our director was saying, Tamil Nadu, you don't have Brahmins. They all left because when they led anti-Brahmin movement, they came to Bombay and come to many cities, some of them gone abroad. But in Tamil Nadu, worst form of atrocity is taking place by what Brahmins did in a very, very softly, the backward caste is doing. Most brutalities are today committed by the intermediary caste. So don't think it is Brahmin as one community, biological entity that commits crimes against them. That it is a casteism and ideology that is there across caste groups. Mahars don't interact closely with the Mataks, Mataks don't interact with the Chamars. So if the subcaste divide even among Dalits. And the intermarriages are a problem. So it is a disease that all of us suffer from. So everybody is an illusion of inferior and superior. Nobody is seeing the fact. And that is the problem. I think it is a collective fight. And in that fight, Dalits have no option but to fight. But Brahmins have better option. They need not fight. But still they believe in certain values and that is they come and stand with you. That is a commendable and admirable. I really appreciate that. That needs to be encouraged. Then the SC leaders, what do the SC leaders do? They should educate Brahmin. I think we will leave to the education to them. The additions Bodhi made, tribal component, I only appreciate the lovely comments and additions you made, and thank you. Disappointed with the educated. Ambedkar was disappointed with educated. Now, that is true with everybody. Even within our institute, I can also, I am disappointed with the educated. When you are bound by certain rules, ये movement में जाने में हमारा promotion cut हो जाएगा. So जाएगा नहीं. We all experience. Only probably during personal time, whenever there are issues, we openly talk. Otherwise, nobody used to come. On the day you call for a meeting, that person will have loose motion on that day. This has been our experience. Now when you say educated dhoka dega na, everybody cannot be Ambedkar. He was a selfless person. He can handle anybody, any crowd. He is least bothered about. But I am bothered about my promotion. I am bothered about my promotion. I am bothered about my foreign trips. So I make a evaluation which will put me in a better condition. So that we are selfish. Simple way why we are dhoka, selfish. Ambedkar was can say a crazy man to say that. It's difficult to find such a person. Oh, normally nahi ho. That selfless service and untiring commitment you don't see with anybody. So educated people will be like that only. You are more educated, are more clever and cunning. So you can cheat anybody and still continue, go ahead with that. So I am also disappointed like Ambedkar, and I like you also will have, everybody has disappointment. What to do? We only hope. Why about talk about educated? All political leaders shift in no time to other parties. Because you get that leads to another question, co-option. Everybody get co-opted because once you give one portfolio, you will surrender your Ambedkar, throw wherever you want, you go and take a position. That's what happened today. All revolutionary leaders in the Congress government, now in the present government, when must they join? What will you do that? So I think the desperation for power and money across castes and communities, we are united as Indian that way. It is not peculiar to Dalits. Every caste does that one. A Brahmin leader also jumps parties when he does not get the portfolio he wants. So we are united in that way. All are having same mind. So don't be so much disappointed. Conversion to Buddhism. That was the only solution Baba Sahib gave. And why you are not doing it? That is a very easy thing. See, Baba Sahib was Baba Sahib because to throw an idol from home into the street or a river, can you imagine throwing away your own God in the street and wells and ponds? It happened in those days. It is not everybody's cup of tea. It is not everybody's cup of tea. People are so scared of an entity called power Whenever you are sick, when there is nobody to support, naturally, whether you believe or not, if there is an entity called God, if I pray to him, can I be saved? You start doing that. It's only at the time of death you will think of God. Till then, as long as you have money, you don't bother. But Ambedkar said, even at the time of death, I will not think of that. The Kamal Haasan, the Tamil film hero, he said, I don't need God. You keep it. I don't need God. That's what the statement he made. And he made even statement, I don't need a God which does not understand Tamil. A God he understands only Sanskrit. I don't want such a God. It's a film hero said. It's not my statement. A film hero is saying that a illiterate God who understands only Sanskrit, nothing else, why should I follow? This was his statement. He's gone on a record. So it's all how courageous you are, how much you are committed, how much you believe in that. It's up to you. So it is not overnight people can throw away God and come and join Buddhism. And Buddhism, it's not an easy religion. Because Buddhism puts everything in your hand. Galat kiya tumhara, you are responsible. Acha hua, you are responsible. But in other religion, everything you can blame God. God can icha hai. Why did I do this wrong? God, religion is a very easy, handy thing. You can do a lot of bad things, you can still blame God. God wanted it to do, that's why I did it. God is saying he will protect me. A murderer, oh, Supari. So Supari wala also prays to God, please, I am going to kill somebody, save me. Right? So whose word he will listen to? He has no option. So it is actually self-courage. How much you believe in reason. Aeroplane, there is no petrol, it will come down. Whichever God you pray, it will not go up. It is simple, understand. But if you say, I have prayed to my God, I have put those many, these things fly, it will not fall, then you are wrong. So how much you believe in science, how much you believe in those reasons, up to you. So probably Mahar gone on those lines, probably believed in what Ambedkar said. The other communities, it's in the process. There are OBC communities coming to Buddhism. There are other Matam communities, I know personally, so many leaders are coming. So don't get disappointed. People may, the more and more rational, scientific in your thinking, definitely people will. You go see the Europe and American. Churches are deserted, nobody go to church. This may happen even in this country. As you grow more and more rational minded, this thing naturally will happen. You don't have to think. I'm not saying that you should all throw away religion. No, that's not my point. But as people become more and more honest in their reading and writing and rationality, this may naturally will happen. So I'm not advocating any religion or any particular conversion. I think the last question, Ambedkar's ideas to be kept alive, what is the way out? Many times an academician, we don't read the original writings of Ambedkar. I end up reading Partha Chatterjee or any other Chatterjee, Mukherjee, then there are totally different interpretations to it. When there is an original reading, why don't you read that? There are so many people misinterpret. I know there are people who have misinterpreted his writings. So read the original writing which is free of cost is available. Ambedkar.org, everything is freely available. So you read the original stuff and don't be disheartened. There are so many people even now in this country, in this institute, who maybe belong to different other communities. And they are Jamma people. This B.D. Sharma, I remember, who was a commissioner. B.D. Sharma happened to be a Brahmin. But the report he wrote, till date, nobody has written such a lovely report. So powerful report. And there are leaders who have been butchered and killed because they took the side of the Dalits. So, but they are rare. But we need to recognize that. If you say that all Brahmins are bad, and I can say that all Dalits are also bad. There are so many Dalits practice untouchability. What will you do with them? So that is why caste is a disease. Everybody is suffering. So we have to wait and see how much time it will take. There is no other options. How much we pray to God, God also does not want it to be changed. So we have to only do it come out. So that way Tata Institute, whatever classroom teachings, the students, in fact, sometimes you feel very distressed and depressed that in foundation course, sir, I will take 1 minute and finish. In foundation course, we debate on such issues and lovely questions students used to raise and in a few interactions. Unfortunately, in the last few days, I get to see some students coming and standing before me, spying in me. It was very frustrating. I don't know why this has happened. Whether should I ask him, please come, what do you want? You ask me directly, I am your teacher. Come and ask me, why are you standing like a spy? Very, very, very disturbed. I was really disturbed. Because I still value every student as a student for me. Whatever caste background I come from, I see that my bias does not go against any student on caste line. And I stand by it and I will stand by it. But when I see a student, when a student sees me with a suspicion, that really pains me. What wrong did I do? What happened? So I think students who think you are most welcome to interact with me anytime, ask any question, whatever you think that's. But as I would like to repeat what Prof. Ramaiah says, that we want to live in this country peacefully. We want to live as a community. We want to live as Indians, whatever political party may belong. That any action that you resort to, if that is going to divide us as people of India, my sincere and humble appeal to you, please refrain from those kind of things. You be a student, I be a student, we learn from each other. We are Indian first and Indian last. Thank you.
So we had an excellent oration, followed by excellent debate. There are some more issues that I think we can discuss as we move out of this convention center. There are a number of issues that will need more exploration, and we will continue the debate. Towards the end of April, we will be having His Holiness Dalai Lama coming back to the institute. So we have a conference on empathy, and he will be coming in to join us to debate on empathy. Actually, what has happened to empathy? Do you know what has happened to empathy? Anyway, that's what we are going to explore when His Holiness is here, actually. So, the idea of caste justice, the idea of empathy, the idea of togetherness, I think these are all very important, and many of these issues came up today. I think we need to stay put, stay together, work hard, and achieve what we have come to achieve. And I think that's the best thing we can do for this nation. So thank you so much.